Why are EV prices crashing so much, though?
EV sales are crashing.
What? No way. EV sales dropped in October because the subsidies for them ended in September? I had so many people trying to tell me EV sales are through the roof. EVs are the future of the auto market. Meanwhile, the moment the government stopped subsidizing them for people with that $7,500 tax credit, they absolutely tank.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Make Gains. Today we're going to be talking about why prices in the EV market are tanking. Let's get into it.
Why are EV prices crashing so much, though? Why is that market being hit so far?
Man, if you want a good used car cheap and you can deal with the electric thing, those things are
I've been looking at Teslas lately. The prices that they're selling for,
wild.
You sold a Tesla Model Y that was like almost brand new with the XPEL paint protection. I think it was like 33 grand.
We're selling plaids in the 50s.
Yes.
That's 1,000 horsepower.
Yeah.
We're selling Lucid Airs for half off. That car's a year old, you know. Like, it is wild what has happened to the EV market. It's almost too good to not to. At some price, no matter what you think of EVs politically or personally, at some price you start to be like,
worth it.
that's interesting.
Yeah, that's a great question. At what point for you does the price become too good to be true? I'm going to jump in because I do think some of the technology is awesome. Teslas, everybody swears by them, but the prices have just been tanking. It is incredible.
EV sales are crashing. No surprise here after the $7,500 federal tax credit has disappeared and gone. But October now, we've got the sales numbers, and EV sales have taken a much expected hit, as car dealership guy says. Of course, the $7,500 ended, but Tesla was able to lock in with some of these orders to extend some of that $7,500. But Ford EV sales fell 25% year over year. Toyota BZs dropped down to 18 units versus 1,401 a year ago. Hyundai Ioniq 5 and 9 sales were down as much as 80% month over month. Leasing took a hit as well, 60% of finance EVs in October versus 71% in September. The data is pretty interesting. I'm curious to see October's sales number for Tesla. Some people were telling me it was already pretty atrocious in the first half of the month, and I don't think it got much better for Tesla in the back half of the month.
Yeah, so this is interesting, right? I mean, it makes perfect sense that the market would be crashing. We've got this federal tax credit that's going away. Anybody who is interested in buying an electric vehicle earlier this year would have most likely gone ahead and done so. For vehicles to not be selling after that credit goes away, it does make sense. And what is the answer to that? They're going to have to lower prices.
As EVs continue to get better and better literally every month, better technology, cheaper, better supply chain, how do you think about how that affects dealer behavior, as they'll constantly have to be getting new models that are cheaper, more efficient?
The way that it affects them the hardest is negative equity for customers who purchased a model a year ago. When suddenly they're back to try to upgrade, but the new model is way better and way cheaper, and that's been wreaking havoc on residual values. Battery electric vehicles are underperforming on the residual value curve dramatically compared to every other vehicle. And that creates this perception that EVs don't hold their value. But what's actually going on here is the cars are so much better and so much cheaper every year that the traditional residual mathematical equation that was built for combustion vehicles doesn't actually work. And it's creating this narrative that isn't necessarily fair, and it's not because there isn't enough demand for these vehicles. In fact, used EV supply in retail is lower on number of days than combustion vehicles.
While that might not be fair, it is true. If you bought a vehicle for $100,000 and now it's selling for $50,000, guess what? You can't sell that vehicle for anywhere near what you paid for it. You're going to have to go down to the price that it's selling for. By my definition, that would mean it doesn't hold its value. Now, the reason for that isn't because it's junk or any of that. It's because prices are getting better, things are becoming more competitive. But whenever manufacturers lower prices, that does, in fact, decrease the value of the used cars that were selling before then.
What? No way. EV sales dropped in October because the subsidies for them ended in September? I had so many people trying to tell me EV sales are through the roof. EVs are the future of the auto market. Meanwhile, the moment the government stopped subsidizing them for people with that $7,500 tax credit, they absolutely tank. Hyundai reported more than 50% drop in EV sales. EVs were down across all manufacturers in the month of October. Guess what? As soon as there's not an incentive to switch over, no one wants them. Meanwhile, ICE vehicles were entirely stable through the month of October. They didn't change because guess what? They don't need incentives to be purchased. People want to buy internal combustion engines. Only the EV freaks actually care about EVs when they are a worse vehicle in every possible category. I have said it so many times. EVs are not the future of the auto industry. At best, it will be plug-in hybrids. Because you've got all these tree huggers who think that EVs mean no more petroleum. Guess what? EVs do not eliminate a human's need for petroleum products. Every plastic thing that we use, petroleum, tires made out of petroleum. All the equipment that you use to mine the minerals, not only for making the steel, making the batteries, everything that goes into a vehicle, petroleum-based vehicles. Our world runs on petroleum. So to think that we're just going to get rid of internal combustion engines and then all of a sudden we're going to have all these green initiatives that are going to change the world and climate change is not true. It's just certifiably false. And if you believe it, you are getting scammed.
Yeah, he does have a lot of great points. You may disagree with him. Every time I do a video related to EV, it always sparks some debate. But he is right. I mean, it does take petroleum to mine these products. It is in all these plastics. And some of the benefits to an EV can be negatives in certain conditions, right? A lot of folks were saying, I just want to be able to start my car and go. I want to be able to walk with a can of fuel and refill my car if I need to. There's needs for that in certain scenarios, right? We had a hurricane come through here last year. And if you had an EV, you were dead in the water. Whereas if you had an ICE vehicle, no problems at all. The benefits, though, to having an electric vehicle with lower maintenance is wonderful. Put down below, would you still buy an electric vehicle without these credits? I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Mercedes, Benz dealerships are not selling the EQS, EQ. There you go. So I'm at the Mercedes dealership. And look how many EQSs are for sale here. I mean, they're just lined up with Mercedes EQEs, EQBs. I posted a video on if you bought EQS, how effed you were, but damn, yo. The whole front line of the dealership is nothing but electric EQSs, EQBs. This is crazy. Even the back lot filled with them of EQSs, EQBs, all this Mercedes electric vehicles they are not selling. Look at that. Look. Straight all the way down, and they're basically saying that these cars are great to lease, but for buying them they're $120,000 plus. A lot of people are scared to take that jump and buy a car that much. And I posted, if you bought a brand new EQS, EQB, any Mercedes full electric vehicle, they've depreciated like 50-60% in 1 to 2 years. So if we look at articles that break down the sales of Mercedes's EQE, EQS, you can see that the EQE total volume increased by 163% because it's fairly new, but the EQS was down 46% year over year, and the EQB was down 67% year over year.
Yeah, that's significant. It is a risk, right? I mean, if you buy these vehicles and you're losing 60% in a year or two, that is significant. So you have to really want these, and that's why I think he's saying they're pushing it as a great vehicle to lease.
This car has been on my lot for over a year, and I have no clue why we can't sell it. We've tried everything. We've knocked down the price, and I don't know what it is. This car behind me is a 2024 Hummer EV, and this thing is sick. Just look at these wheels, all-terrain tires on here. The car looks great. I don't know what there isn't to like. A lot of great badging on it. You got the Hummer badging, and you also have the American flag up here. What's more American than an EV? This thing's got over 625 horsepower, and it goes fast. When I say fast, I mean fast, like head in the back of your seat. This car stickers for $112. It's on sale for under $100. Let me know in the comments, do you think this is a big enough discount, or do we got to do more? For cars like this, follow Danny at Bill K Automotive.
So I had it over a year. That is crazy. And just going to the comments, there is literally nothing less American than an electric car. I have a Hummer H1, which is very America, because they're a giant POS and should have a Duramax. The color, and it's an EV, price too much. It's crazy how many dealers are willing to sit on these overpriced cars for a year. And it will be there next year too. Very interesting. We're seeing more and more of this where cars are just sitting on the lots at dealers. unable to sell them.
Tesla is really struggling to sell the Cybertrucks. They have over $800 million worth of Cybertrucks that nobody is buying. This Tesla dealership has tons of Cybertrucks on the lot. When the Cybertrucks were first announced, they got over 1 million reservations, but once they were actually released, they've only sold 52,000 Cybertrucks. The sales peaked in Q3 of 2024, but have started declining ever since. Now, when they first announced the Cybertruck, they said it was going to be $39,000, but the actual price as of July 2025 was $62,490. That's over $20,000 more than what was originally expected. Tesla also announced at the Cybertruck reveal that it was going to have a 14,000-pound towing capacity, but it actually only ended up having an 11,000-pound towing capacity. They also said that the original payload capacity was going to be 3,500 pounds, but it's actually only 2,270 pounds at most. Tesla also said at the reveal that the Cybertruck was going to have up to 500 miles of range on a single charge, but it actually only ended up having about 300 miles of range. Now, they did offer a range extender for the Cybertruck, which would give you about 470 miles of range, so it's close to that original 500 miles of range that was expected. But then they canceled that range extender, so that was no longer an option. Another issue with the Cybertrucks is between January of 2024 and March of 2025, Tesla issued 8 recalls on the Cybertruck alone. Now, of course, they also faced a lot of setbacks during COVID, just like most automakers did. And then you also have to consider that there's probably a lot of people that don't want to purchase a Cybertruck due to the overall attention that it brings, whether that be good or bad. The people that strongly dislike the Cybertruck and the people that very much admire the Cybertruck tend to show that attention very strongly. That could be a big reason that people just don't want to buy it, because they just don't want to deal with that. And another thing that I've noticed is, while yes, this is a pickup truck, majority of people that purchase pickup trucks do use them for work purposes, and the Cybertruck doesn't seem to be fully considerate of that audience. For example, it's very difficult to access the bed from the side of the truck, which could be a huge drawback for people that are purchasing it for work reasons. But with all of that considered, the lower towing capacity than what was promised, the lower payload than what was promised, a lower range than what was promised, but a higher price than what was promised, is definitely affecting the Cybertruck sales and is causing the dealerships to be flooded with Cybertrucks. But what do you think about this? Do you think that they were overhyped in the beginning, or do you think that they should be selling more than what they are and they're actually worth it?
Yes, this one's interesting. It sounds like the classic case of overpromise and underdeliver. These things happen sitting on the lots. I know that Tesla is looking at some unique deals to try and move some of these cars, like selling them to SpaceX to be their work fleet, which makes sense if you're in a position where you can do that, which Elon and his companies definitely are. Now, some manufacturers aren't in as good of a position to do that because they don't own multiple companies where they can pull tricks like this. But yeah, the Cybertruck, I mean, she was right. It is, in my opinion, ugly as sin. A lot of people love this thing, though. It really just depends on where you stand with that. There's no mincing words with it. You're either on one side of the fence or the other.
When I tell you Dodge cannot sell these new Charger EVs, I think at this point it's worse than the Hornet. When I tell you they can't sell these, look at this right here. It says take home a 2025 Dodge Charger Daytona for only $199 a month for 24 months. Fast, stylish, and electric. Hey, I'm not going to hold you for $199. I just might. Hey, you can't beat it, but it's a lease. And I like leases. Leases are cool. If you're a person that swap cars a lot, a lease is cool. But then I don't want to be tied down to the miles that they have. Oh, we're going to give you 20,000 miles, 15,000 miles. What if you're a person that drive a lot? Then at the end of that lease, you had to pay them funyuns. The munions. 1,536 Dodge Hornets have been sold. And I have still yet to see one on the street. Versus 1,900 and some change of the Dodge Charger EVs have been sold. And I still have yet to see one on the streets. Who is buying these? Now, I'm not going to lie. It's a good-looking car. It's just the EV thing. And then you had to put speakers in. I don't know. What's your day tomorrow?
Yeah, I do think that this is one where the American muscle crowd doesn't want an EV. They want a gas vehicle. They want to hear the rumble. Not everybody, right? They're going to sell some of these. He's right. I haven't seen any of these either. And the sales volumes are especially low. I did do a search to see if I could find these for $199 for lease. And sure enough, in fact, I found a back to school deal. This was just this past August, right? So 2-3 months ago. They were doing a 2025 Dodge Charger Daytona EV for $49.99 a month. You heard that right. $49.99 a month. Now, this is crazy, and apparently it is limited to who can get it, because there's some hoops you got to jump through, like you've got to stack all the EV credits and all that. But guys, $49.99 a month for a lease is wild. I mean, I would consider doing that, and I have no interest in a Dodge Charger EV. But for that price, it seems like a steal. And until you start looking at, like, when I was doing this search, there was a Reddit post where somebody posted that they got one of these as a lease, and they drove it to another city to visit their sister. They got back in the car and made it 12 miles before it started flashing to pull over, at which point they pulled over and said at only 56 miles on the car, the thing was bricked. So they had to have it towed back to the dealership. I know that's not everybody's experience, but it is wild. Those are the kind of things that are much more likely to happen in an EV than a standard gas vehicle.
We have a client trying to trade in their Cybertruck. It's supposed to be a 24 Founders Edition. This Cybertruck is so heavy, it ripped off some of our fresh asphalt. You have a big chunk over here. Pretty cool. I've never seen one of these in person, up close. Every time I see it at the auction, no one buys them. They just keep piling up. These things are sitting. Looking at about days in stock at about at least 150 days, so they're not selling. And the client wants to trade up out of her car because they keep getting harassed in this vehicle, which is a shame, because to spend this much money and to lose so much in such a short time period. Very typical Tesla. I'm not surprised about the quality. It's nice quality, but it's too odd looking. I'm not crazy about the look of these. It's definitely unique, but I think for the price point, I would take a Rivian over this. This is unique too, but I don't know. I don't want to drive around something that kind of resembles a dumpster truck.
I've heard that several times, people saying they resemble a dumpster. Now, they do look really cool if you do. There's some wraps. I don't know if you guys have seen that. There's some Mad Max style wraps where they look rusty and all that. It's a neat look. But to his point, if they're sitting on the lot for 150 days at that price point, it doesn't make a lot of sense for any dealer to take one of these in on a trade.
Electric vehicles were supposed to be the future, but now sales are plummeting. Electric vehicles are sitting in lots. The charging infrastructure is failing, and the resale values on electric vehicles are awful. They are tanking right now. Ford and GM actually just started slashing the EV production, and even Elon Musk warns the market might be overhyped. Oh yeah, and the rare minerals needed to make them, guess who controls them? China. So I guess really what I want to know is, was the EV hype just that? Hype?
Time will tell. I think a lot of people are really sold on the idea of using an electric vehicle, especially if you have solar panels. The cost is so low once you purchase this. Now, they cost a lot to purchase, but you're not having to spend that monthly price on gas. You're not having to do oil changes. You're not having to worry about engine maintenance. So there are some benefits, but is it all hype?
Remember those Teslas that I show at the auction, especially this one, still up here over a month, 3,000 miles. This is the one where I got 1 million views on Instagram and a lot of views on Facebook and TikTok. But these vehicles, they can't sell.
So even at the auction, not selling. And I don't know how long this will continue, but it is interesting just to see that once this EV credit went away, prices are dropping. It's difficult to sell these. They're sitting on lots of dealers.
Things just went from bad to worse at Ford, where dealers are being told to halt their investments in EVs as Ford reconsiders their rollout. A little over a year ago, Ford told their dealers they needed to pony up $500,000 to $1 million to become an EV dealer. And now, after months of dealers dropping out of the program and their EVs not selling, Ford's pumping the brakes. EV sales at Ford have slowed down significantly. This 2023 Ford F-150 Lightning, been on the dealer's lot for 270 days. And it's not just the Lightnings, it's also the Mach-E's. This is a 2023 Mustang Mach-E, 341 days on this dealer's lot. So what about the 2024s? They must be moving faster. 124 days already. And there's an industry metric called market days supply, which tells you how fast inventory is moving. Right now, that's 1,100 days for the Mustang Mach-E. That means they have over 1,000 days worth of inventory based on current sales rates.
Now, that video is a little older, but 1,000 days of inventory. And this is crazy because I feel like whenever the Ford, especially the Ford trucks, like the Lightning, I mean, those were sharp trucks, but they were so expensive. And there was a huge back order whenever they first came out. But I don't know about you guys, I haven't really seen a lot of those vehicles. At first I was seeing them, but now I don't think I'm seeing them at all. So I don't know if it's because of this or not, but it is still interesting.
So the electric vehicle market is collapsing, and the reason is pretty simple. The demand for electric vehicles was always fake. Look, the government provided tens of billions of dollars of subsidies to producers on the production side of the market to bring down the cost, to help them get going. And then on the consumer side, they gave $7,500 per vehicle to help consumers pay for what was already too expensive, even with the subsidies. And still, consumers are saying, nah, I don't think so. Hybrids maybe, but these EVs, not really. Because it turns out that you also can't get them to work reliably in cold temperatures or really hot temperatures or over long distances. So the market was fake because the government got itself involved in both the production on the supply side and the consumer on the demand side, generating a market out of whole cloth. It was all fake, and that's why it's collapsing.
So what's your take on it? Was it all fake to begin with? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. But that is all for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed this one. Please give us a like and a subscribe. And if you know anybody who'd be interested in this content, please send it their way. Until next time, thanks, and we'll see you next time.